Hey everybody, Joe Menza here. Welcome to my watercolor journey and hopefully your watercolor journey. We're on this together, learning together as we go. I've been doing this for a few years now. By no means am I an expert, but I like to pass along what I've learned and we can kind of move together. And if you're interested more in this technique, you can always check out our Ron Ranson group. He was an artist that worked with this brush called the Hake or Hake brush. There's a couple different versions of that brush. This one's made by, this is the Frank Clark Simply Painting, and this is the Ron Ranson Medium Hake and the large Hake or Hake brush, as they're rightfully known as. Then I use a rigger brush and a fan brush. So, if you're just starting out painting, the first thing I like to do is I like to wet my paper down. And for beginners, I think it's easiest to just wet. This is 9x12 arches. Or actually, this is 9x12. Yeah, this is 9x12 arches. Okay, 140 pound paper. You can get this at Amazon or your local art shop. Now, cotton paper is a better paper, but if you're just practicing, you can buy a less expensive paper. It's not going to hurt anything, and you can eventually move to the more expensive paper. Now, a lot of people ask me, they say, hey, how much water do I put on there? Well, I like to put a good sheen of water on there. Now, you have to remember with these type of brushes, these brushes hold water. There's water in this brush right now. You can't see it. If I squeezed it, you'd see it. But when you see me dipping into my palette, which consists of alizarin crimson, Payne's gray, a yellow of some sort, either yellow ochre, raw sienna, we've got light red, I've got a burnt sienna on here today, but raw umber or burnt umber is what I usually use, and then a blue, ultramarine blue. So usually within that realm. Now, you may see me dip into these colors. You may see me go into right into the paint, and you may think, well, he uses paint straight from the tube. Well, no, I don't, because the paper's already wet and my brush is already wet. Now, if it's a little dry when you start out, add a little bit more water, dip it into your cup, and you can add a little bit more water in at a point to where it cascades down the sheet. You're going to have to experiment with this and see where your comfort level of painting is and what works for you. So here we have the either yellow ochre or raw sienna. I like to put different layers on so that we get multiple shades going of the same color. Now you should always have a paper towel of some kind to dab your brush on in case there's too much water. You don't want water just hanging off or dripping off. And now we're going to go into some ultramarine blue, and we're just going to randomly put some sky colors in here, some blue. I want to make this easy and fun and want you encouraged to do this and have a good time. So you can make these cloud shapes however you want. That's essentially a basic sky. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of Payne's gray to this. Payne's gray is a store-bought color, but you can make it with black and some blue, ultramarine blue. So now I'm just kind of dabbing this in. We have some different layers of color. Okay? And now on the bottom here, maybe we'll have some water or maybe we'll have some foliage. But in the meantime, you can dry this. You can use a hair dryer to dry it. I'm at work on my lunch right now, so I'm not really have access to the hair dryer. there's a stray hair. You can leave those, you can chase them down. I usually leave them, but it's kind of out in the middle there. And another thing you can do is you can take a dry brush and you can do a little bit of blending. You can put a little water on there and you can take out some paint. And create different effects while it's wet. You don't want to, once it dries, you kind of want to leave it alone unless you're really comfortable with lifting. So some people like to just go in sometimes with a tissue and dab. I've seen that done many times, and you can create some nice cloud effects with that. And when it dries, it'll have a pretty neat look to it. So how can we keep this rather simple? What we'll do is we'll switch over to the fan brush, and we'll just start putting in let's put in some pines against this light back here. Just some basic pines. And we're just making little triangular shapes, just shapes, using ultramarine blue and a little bit of yellow, little cad yellow I might use in this case. Okay. So maybe we'll have some pines. I make this up as I go along. I really do. I don't really think about it. I don't really look at pictures. I just like to kind of paint and feel what I'm going into. But if you like to use pictures and things like that, then that's fine too. I just rather paint as I go. So we've got some pines up in here. Make them all different heights too. You know, sometimes they say writers on shows, they'll write something, they'll write themselves into a corner and then try to figure out how to get out of it. You kind of do the same thing with painting. So just a basic group of pines there. Now, we could also come in with maybe some land up and through here. Leave some white spaces. It leaves for some interesting things. So that's just a yellow ochre raw sienna. Let's take and dab into some ultramarine blue. Go right into the wet and wet with that. And get a little more blue on there. This is just some land here. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do in the middle yet, but I think we'll do some more pines here, even closer. So when you do these, make them a little bit darker, make them a little bigger. Again, I'm using the fan brush. I really like how it looks as you aim upward. These aren't the best I've done, and I never claimed to really be an expert, but I do feel like I can explain things well, and I can encourage other people to take up this fantastic fun hobby. So I've taken some yellow ochre and a little bit of cad yellow, and I've just used that to kind of highlight the tree. You're not really supposed to go light over dark, but you can get away with it with wet and wet. It'll create a nice effect. So we've got some nice trees over here that are coming down. And a little trick that I like to do is I like to have a water bottle. And this is kind of a big one. I suggest you get a smaller one. And I will sort of shoot a few little blobs of water and create some nice effects. And here we have got a little bit off to the side here, but that's okay. So over here, maybe we'll put a pine down in here, and just let's make this a big guy. just go for the shapes, okay? I really don't want to make this look too complicated. That's probably a little too much Payne's gray, so while it's wet, we'll get some yellow in there. I had a guy tell me, I worked for years trying to get trees, and your trees look like mud. Well, maybe they do. You could probably do better, and that's fine. If I encourage you to do this, and you look at some of the TV painters, there's a lot of guys better than the guys that are doing the TV show stuff. Now, this is the fun little trick that everybody enjoys. Sometimes I take a plastic card, not this one. Let me see what I got in here. Take one card, save one from the hotel, and you can start putting in little rock shapes. See? And we could do the same over here. And we can even make some texture. That's not going to be the end of it, though. As long as we've done that, we're going to come back with sort of them darker colors. And we're just going to touch up some of them. We don't want that many rocks. It looks a little too much. So I put in extra, touch them up, and now it looks a little bit more natural. So we can even come here and we can put some more here. I've gone pretty dark in my coloring. Now, what do you want to do here? Do you want to have like a pond or, you know, some rocks or whatever? You can do whatever really you want here. If you want to do some water, because I've left this open, I'm just going to hit this with some water and a clean brush. And you can see we've already kind of started getting some of the residue from the other colors. And really, I mean, you don't have to do much with the water. You could put a little blue on there, okay? If you want, you know, everybody kind of mentally thinks of blue water. You could even add a little red to it. It should really reflect the sky, though. So I'll use these colors here. And now, because I have the sky already in the middle here, I'm going to give it a little spray. Let's see, I'm trying to control this bottle, but so this is going to wet this down, and this is going to be my sky reflection area here. Take a wetter cloth and just going to carve this out a little bit. So it basically reflects the sky up top. Now, another way you can do that, if you don't want to use the brushes, you can use a brush and you don't want to use the paper, is you can clear this up a little bit by using a brush. And we can even add a little bit more yellow back in here. Put a little more water on my brush. We're just going to clear this out a little bit. See, it's already looking like water now. I did lose a little bit of that blue and purple, and we'll put just a little bit more back in there. Just a little bit more. I just want it to look random with the sky. And now while that's drying, I'm just going to come back with some more. I'm going to come in here with some yellow ochre, and no, that's probably not the right color. I'll put a little blue on there. I accidentally put burnt sienna in place of my burnt umber, so I'll just add a little Payne's gray to it. A little more blue. Blue and burnt sienna actually darken quite a bit. So do that in there. And another thing you can do is you can do more with the reflections. So this is going to be water, and you want to take some. You can take your brush and put a little bit of that in there. And you can always put a little bit of green in there for that. I'll come out with a little. And then if you put any little sticks, like take and scratch them down into the water. Maybe you put a scratch in the tree. And if it's too wet, it won't come out right, but I'll scratch that downward. Do the same thing over here. Put a scratch in the water, and it'll do a little bit of reflecting for you. I'm just gonna take my brush here and just break up a little bit here. Breaking up a little bit of the paint, creating some more foliage. Maybe that's a little bit of the sky there. Okay. Do that a little bit, and that's pretty much our water reflecting. And you can even take I don't have a flat brush, unfortunately, but because I'm at work right now, but if I take and I flatten my hake, I can even take and create a little ripple through the water. Sometimes a tissue will do the same thing. Get you the same results. And you'll notice now we've got our water. We got little rocks. A few more little rocks in here. Some little stick things. And we'll go over this one more time because it didn't really take. And really, I'd say that's about it. I mean, just for a basic painting. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit. Not the greatest painting I've done, but I want to keep it simple for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy something like that. Let me see if I can. You can sometimes not make out all the little details. If you look at the sky coming in, and the little rocks and the sticks and things. And I'll come back when it's dry and we'll do a little virtual frame. Okay, so here it is in the virtual frame. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it's simple enough that you can give it a try and maybe post your results over in the group. Thanks everyone, have a great day.